Welcome to the Spiritual Connection Podcast. I am your host, Jill. In this podcast, we're going to be talking about your energy, their energy, manifesting, mindset, creating high vibrational healing for you, body work, the importance of massage and self-care, and much, much more. Let's get rolling. All right, everybody. Hello. Welcome back to Om Shanti Healing's podcast, The Spiritual Connection. I've got Tamara Reed back on. Woo, 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 woo. She's one of my ride or dies here in our town. And we're videoing today so you can see how gorgeous she is and get the face with the name, because she has been on several of my podcasts before. And we have a lot of fun together. So thank you for being here. Good morning, honey.
Good morning. You look lovely. I look like I barely took a
You.
shower. But in the
Yeah.
empowerment of
You know,
today, this is
this is
all
real
good.
life stuff, right? I mean, it's not, my
Exactly.
podcast isn't about the showboating and the pretending, right?
Yeah.
We're in our
Yeah.
houses, there's crap in the background, right?
Yeah.
I have dogs here, you have dogs there, they might be barking, whatever. We're just going to go with it and, just be real around it. So, Tamara called me yesterday and she said that she wanted to do a podcast. She had an inspirational moment and a speaking event that she did that she wants to talk about. And I guess we're going to title this podcast Pulling Up Our Wonder Woman Panties, right?
I don't, panties always sticks with me. I'm like, I call it undies, like the
Undies.
underoos
Pulling up
undies,
our
like
Wonder Woman undies.
Wonder
Not
Woman
too high, though.
undies.
Not too high.
It's
just,
okay.
just high enough.
You can pull them up as high as you like. Yeah. And it's just, and like I was telling you, it's something that I keep on coming back to in my meditations. They keep on saying, I find myself like making myself small and I start stressing and I feel like I'm in this container. And all of a sudden, I just find myself going, stop, step back, put your arms up, put your arms on your hips, and step into that wonder. I call it the Wonder Woman undies power. And I even have a Wonder Woman, little stick figure hanging from my, which used to hang from my truck, rear windshield, and my son now has it and stuff like that. But it was always my reminder to be like, stop making myself small or fearful or insecure and step back and just be like, nope, I'm not squeezing myself small anymore,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's hard to do as women, isn't it? It's like, especially when we're on our own, kind of doing life and stuff, and we want to show up in a certain way, but getting big can be very intimidating,
Oh, yeah.
because
It's
you're
such
showing up
a,
in a certain way that could lead to failure.
oh,
And then
so
everybody
true.
sees that, it's challenging.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's been my greatest growth in the past 5 years has been how do I make myself bigger without leaning on a spouse or significant other. And I call it the turtle mode. I've spent in my healing, it was always this and protecting my heart space, rolling my shoulders in and protecting my heart space. And just once again, confining myself, making myself small, making myself invisible. I had this bright, I had this mauve colored hair and I stuck out. And I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I coloring my hair this color? It's making me stick out so much and all this kind of stuff. Meanwhile, I just wanted just pull my arms and legs and my head in and go back into my turtle shell. And I was just like, nope, I'm not doing that anymore. I just, who cares? Like, we're just here to empower each other and to love on each other and, speak faith into each other. That's my biggest thing. Like, I'm not the person, like, when I'm with my friends, and with you, I'm not the person that I'm going to sit and listen to you talk negatively about yourself. I'm like, hold up, girl, hold up, girl. You're beautiful, you're smart, you got an incredible heart. I'm talking to you, my beautiful Jill. You have this beautiful, soulful heart and presence, and what we're here to do. And even if that means we feel like dog shit while we're leaving a relationship or whatever it is, it still means in all things we came here with value, we are purposeful, we are deserving. Like that's the message I get from meditations every time. Somebody told me a lie in my childhood. Somebody told me to stay small, it's like I had this little red balloon that would float up to the sky. And my mother would be like, don't get too big for your britches. And da da da, here. And she'd pop my balloon and I'd come back down to earth. You know what? Fuck that. Excuse my French. I'm going to have a whole handful of balloons and I'm floating to the sky and I'm worthy of what I desire and want to create and see in my visions. And, all of us, we just need to support each other in that and not sit around talking about what we aren't versus what we are. And
Yeah.
that's Wonder
Yes.
Woman.
That
Wonder
is
Women.
beautiful. That is beautiful. And it's exactly where we should be.
Mhm.
So let's go about the steps that you have in mind about
Okay.
how to get to that point. Like, say you're at a space where you feel small and it's scary to get big, and you want to maybe make a career change or, break up with somebody that's abusing you and you're not happy, right? But you need to make a plan, right? And things need to be put in order. But the process of that is terrifying, right? So
Yeah.
walk us through. You were talking to me about letting go of blame, projection, being accountable. We want to talk about all that stuff and then like
Mhm.
recognizing the mirror. So maybe let's start with the mirror part of what you wanted to talk about because a lot of times in relationships, there's something about that person that you don't like that's a mirror of something in you that you don't like, right?
Always.
Like a bad habit or a character trait that just makes you feel like
Triggers the
crap about
bejesus
yourself,
out
but
of
you
you.
see
Yeah.
it in that person and then you project that, you mirror that annoyance for that person because they do that thing, but it's really something that you do that you don't like about yourself. So let's talk on that first. I think that would be a good
Okay.
starting point. And then everything else will kind of like fall into place, I think, after that.
Okay, sounds good. It's one of the best books I've ever read is The Four Agreements. And it's just like, it's not thick. It's like Cliff Note. And you get past the blah, blah, blah of the beginning, which kind of like, I was like, meh. And you just get to the chapters. And one of them is the mirror image and the things that are triggering you in life. And this person did this. So now I feel this way. One, you've just given your power away. Like, because they did that, now I feel this way. And the best thing I've learned in life through my psych background is feelings are just feelings. They just are. No right or wrong. First and foremost, giving yourself grace, like I'm having this feeling. Oh, look at that feeling's coming up. And second, nobody can make you feel anything. You've given your power away if we say, you just made me feel angry. Well, no, you didn't. I have a choice. And my choice is I feel angry right now right now. And why do I feel angry? And there's that, let me do that deep dive. Let me see what this is about. Why is this bothering me? Why is this, like I said, that favorite word, why is this triggering me? Whatever it is, why is this person annoying me so much? Like, what is it within myself? So that's where I call that's the Wonder Woman undies. The undies are pulling it up and going, I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to stop giving my power away and projecting the fact that they just did something to make me have a reaction and instead go, why am I having that reaction? Like, interesting. Like,
Like,
yeah,
but legit, someone can do something that pisses you off. Like, if you, whatever reaction you have,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It still could be painful. It still could
right,
be angry.
right,
I mean, that's
right,
that piece of it is really hard to regulate,
right.
you know?
And it's fine to recognize that, but that's like I said, those are still feeling your feels. I'm still going to feel my feels. I'm just pissed right now, and I don't know why, and that sort of thing. And it still comes down to if this person is triggering me, or if it's something that just keeps on. I just don't like it's like when you go home at the end of your night, spending time with whomever, and you just don't feel good about yourself. You just don't feel positive, whatever it may be. Then the assessment is, if I don't enjoy spending my time around that person, what am I doing? I have a choice. Again, I have a choice who is in my life. I have a choice who I surround myself with. I have a choice what comes out of my mouth. I have a choice with what I'm going to receive and what I'm not going to receive. And the more we work on ourself and our own value, truly our own value, and start creating that foundation, that solid foundation with it still its cracks and all that beauty and the flowers growing up through the cracks, all that beauty in there, but still having that foundation of going, I am not going to allow this person to ruin my day.
Mhm.
I'm going to go back into a place of just giving them grace, seeing that that is their wound, and just, and my favorite thing to do, and I do this with my husband, where I have such a compassion for him and recognizing how different we are now, but I have such a compassion for him because I see his wounded child. And that's all they are. That's all he's doing is going through life and just looping through his wounds. So if I can see that, it's amazing how when you can just love somebody and have compassion for them, all of a sudden you're like, holy cow, that means I'm loving myself and having compassion for myself. And that's what it's all big, 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 that mirror image again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It took me years to really have compassion around that with my ex too. Like he had a pretty rough childhood, and there was some substance abuse and some, emotional abuse going on in his childhood. He lost his dad when he was really young. And
Hmm.
he grew up with a certain mindset around how he had to behave.
Mm.
And it trickled into the marriage, and it caused some problems, and some behaviors that were not okay with me, and some behaviors that were not okay with him that I acted out on, and it's like it's really a powerful healing stepping stone, I think, when you look at the ex person in your life that caused you pain for such a long time
Mhm.
and see love for them in a different
Right,
way,
right, right,
forgiveness,
right.
understanding of the journey that he has been on with his life has molded and shaped him, just like the journey I've been on has molded and shaped me.
Right, right.
And as we get older, those habits are harder to change, I think, too.
Yeah, it's a
So
choice.
just like acceptance of the person as is, but also having really good boundaries too,
Yeah, yes.
around potential situations that could be abusive psychologically or emotionally abusive, not tolerating that, right? If it makes you
Right,
feel deeply wounded and rejected or shame. I mean,
hmm
there's a fine line between like acceptance of it and
Oh,
intolerance of
yeah,
it, right?
yeah, yeah,
Depending on
yeah.
the circumstance.
And that there's twofold to what you were just saying. And the beauty of it is um we pick the partners we pick in life in order to help us work through this is truly my belief. I picked my husband to work through some deep-rooted self-value stuff. I picked him to challenge ways. So the perfect example of actually why I picked my husband in life was I looked a certain way. I altered my body. I lived in LA. I modeled. I lived in that whole scene because at the time, that's where I saw my value. My value was in my looks. And I met a man who loved me for the way I looked and thought I was beautiful and told me I was beautiful and, reaffirmed that all the time, but then would make these little comments about, little things about, which made me feel, okay, then that person just likes me because of how I look, not because of, I have a value and I have a beautiful heart and I'm smart and all those kind of things. Like he made those comments, little comments. Of course, he's talking to you, you're beautiful. And I'm like, that's not why I created this business. That's not why I've established these clients. And he would just undermine that with the way he said what he would say. And then I started recognizing that that was his value system. That's why he believed that people value him and he has that belief system. I have a choice that I'm going to go away over here and say, I don't want to have just a face and be a body and walking through life that way. And that's why somebody talks to me or doesn't talk to me. I'm like, I want to walk through life with an open heart and this mindset of not taking any crap from anybody, loving myself so much that I can navigate when somebody's just, nope, this person isn't aligned with me. I'm okay with letting them go in my life, whatever it may be, and stuff. And so I look at him now, and you can see how he still struggles with his aging. Like, and I'm just like, oh, well, let's just let it go, you know? I had breast implants, I took those out. I really did want to just let it go and be of value just because I am. I am worthy. I am valuable. I came into the world with value and I feel purposeful and all of that. So working on that truly and not in the last 5 years, my value was also the fact that once he, let's say, he cheated on me. Once when he cheated on me and he moved on so easily, that affected my value system. Like, how could he just move on? That obviously means I meant nothing to him. How, like all this stuff. So there's that we come into each other's lives to trigger each other, to work through stuff, to karmic balancing. And then the other part of it is that we are constantly given the choice of, again, who do we have in our life and who do we not want to have in our life? Who do I surround myself with and who don't I? Simple
Yeah.
as that.
Yeah.
And the animals are another thing. That's why I love being with animals so much. I love people too. I also love animals because they're just their authentic self. They're like pound sand. This is who I am. There's always room where they want to let stuff go, constantly want to let stuff go. And that's what I try to mirror. Like, I don't like this about myself. What do I do to let it go? So I can live in my present moment and be happy and all that. So I'm the spirit animal amongst my spirit animals and stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah, so true. And the the animals are a beautiful piece. I love being home with my animals and they love me no matter what, right? And that's a
yeah,
good thing.
yeah,
There's no rejection piece there with your animals
yes,
and it's just easy and they're such healers, without
they
even
are.
intentionally
Yeah.
doing it, just being there for you and being amazing and adorable. They heal
And
you.
then your animals are all but and exactly. And then your animals also mirror where you're at, right? When I'm feeling anxious and yesterday and today, it's just been kind of like I've had a client load and I've sick clients and pain and a lot of clients with pain. So I wake up in the morning and I start working and I realize I need to ground myself more. I need to center myself. Otherwise I just get, kind of, adrenals going. And I recognize the madness that happens in my household when I'm not grounded, what they're showing me in their adrenal fatigue or their, like you just see even with the puppy I have and stuff like that. He's just all like tired but fried today and stuff. And I'm like, okay, so we're both mirroring each other. And, animals will show you where you're as well. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Very true. Very true. They are special creatures. So let's move on to um, the projection and being accountable piece that you wanted to talk about. We covered the mirroring and just kind of recognizing what is showing up in your partner that you are discontented with in yourself. That's huge. I
Yeah.
think that's like the first step really is just recognizing what that is or what maybe a few of those things are and just kind of
Yeah.
stepping back from that and going, okay, I see that, I recognize that, and just kind of processing for a moment. If you're new at doing this kind of thing, like some people may not have ever heard of mirroring before, right? And they're just straight into the projection and the blame piece, right?
Right.
And the non-accountability of it, which we're going to be talking about shortly. So,
Yeah.
say we
Which I spent,
recognize the
I call,
mirror.
I call that the victimville.
Yeah.
And like
So
I
many
think I've
people
said
get stuck
before,
there.
oh my gosh, I moved in, like I love to say, I not only moved to Victimville, I bought a house. I established a zip code. I put out a welcome mat. I lived in Victimville for a good while.
Yeah.
And it's easier to be in Victimville. Like everything that's happening in my life is because of him. He did this to me. This is his fault. All of that
Yeah.
was all just constantly, here you go. Here's my power away. Oh, he's happy. That means I'm not happy. Oh, he's traveling with somebody. That means I didn't mean anything to him and we weren't great travelers and all this kind of stuff. Oh,
Oh,
he can move, like
gosh.
everything
That's
was, here's my
tough.
power. Here's my power. And even though I wasn't saying it to him, I was constantly feeling this way. So it was like, here's my power. Here's my power, and I got so sick of myself. Oh, I was
Yeah.
sick.
I hear you there, man. It's a couple stepping stones through all that crap. Yeah, it's
Yes,
because
yeah,
when someone causes us pain, what we want them to be perpetually in pain until we don't, right? And
right.
if
And
they're
that's it.
if
And then
they're
you're like,
thriving and moving
I'm
on,
wishing.
it hurts. But
Yes,
maybe,
that is true.
for the men that might listen to this, like correct me if I'm wrong or maybe not. But it seems to me that as we get older, that women are just more prone to do the self work, more prone to just kind of do the inner reflection of their peace, in the relationship ending or their peace in a job ending or whatever ending, whatever grief process is happening, that women seem to just tend to be more reflective around that and more kind of emotionally tuned into the why, right? And then working on that more likely than men do. My
Well, actually, that's actually not true in the sense that actually how it goes is feminine energy, whether you're a he, she, they, them, feminine energy tends to do the work right away. We go into what was my part in this and da 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 da. And we start going through all the emotions and we're pulling out, opening the closets and we're pulling up the floorboards and all that kind of stuff. We tend to do that initially, pretty much. We can even sense relationships ending and we start doing that work. The
Mhm.
masculine
True.
energy does it later down the road, usually, where they're like, okay, it keeps on kicking me in the ass. Now I'm gonna do something about it. But it doesn't mean that the masculine doesn't do it, doesn't do that healing work. It just means that usually the feminine does it like right away, like we're already starting to. But the feminine energy also tends to, and maybe masculine does this as well, but the feminine energy, in my experience, tends to go into the shame part of it. Like, this is my fault. I wasn't enough. I was too much. I was, all of that verbiage and that sort of thing. But that's still some of the pulling, that's still all part of the throwing everything open and the wardrobe of grief and stuff open, where it tends to kick them in the butt down the road. Other more masculine energy, stuff like that. But it's
Right.
still,
Right.
at some way or the other, it's going to come up, whether it's going to show up as pain in your
Right.
body or it's going to just, full on implode your life. Like
Right.
one way or the other. Yeah.
Right. One way
So,
or the other, it has to be looked at and healed.
yeah, exactly.
And there has to be that mirroring recognition, right? And there has to be
Right.
the projection and the accountability piece. Perhaps, I have one experience to compare it to, right? And it didn't
Hmm.
seem to go that route for me. There's
Hmm.
to like if there is any accountability on his part at this point, 6 years later, I would never hear about it,
Hmm.
you know? He would keep that dialogue very tightly
Oh,
bound up inside.
absolutely. Yeah.
If there was any apology, I would never hear about it. If there was any remorse at all, I would never hear about it. So
Hmm.
who's to say if there's any work being done on that end or not? What I do know is that he remarried 3 months after our divorce to
Hmm.
someone he met on Tinder and he knew for 9 months. So
Hmm.
that was his way of healing, I guess, or
Or lifting up
pretending
the
he was
carpet and
okay.
scraping it under the
Right.
carpet. Yep.
Slapping a band-aid on it with a new
Yeah.
marriage,
Yeah.
whatever, but
Yeah.
to me, like in my experience of that, there there wasn't much of that reflective work that I was aware of anyway.
Yeah. Well, and
It
I
was
will
just
tell
like,
you that in my experience, I got the apology. I got the real conversation. My husband is somebody who holds who he really is, very much keeps that mask on and that persona to the world. And I'm pretty much the only one who's seen a glimpse behind it. And so he can be pretty real with me, although it's always a bummer to me that he's not more real with the people in his life. And I will tell you though, his is same thing, stuffing it down. I call the bubbles of truth start coming up and he shoves it down and he reseals that Tupperware lid. And I saw it even when we were dating. I'm like, oh, there's a bubble of a real emotion there. Shove it down. And for him, it's affecting everything about him physically. He's got acid reflux. He's not speaking his truth. He's got GERD now, which I work frequency on him. Like I said, we're good. I'm always like, can I, help you? He's doing so much better. But it still comes down to the one thing I keep on saying is you have to find a way to speak your truth. If you're not going to say it out loud, then write it on a piece of paper and burn it. Say everything that you're angry about,
yeah.
you resent, da 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 da. So it will affect your husband's physical body.
Oh yeah,
Stuffing
I
that
mean
stuff down.
he's
Yeah.
drinking again,
Yes.
and he has
Livers,
he
anger. Right.
has high liver enzymes and his
Yeah.
and heart palpitations. So
Right. Heart is grief, liver's anger. Yep. So it all in some way or the other, even if they're not coming forward and they're saying it to us or to them or anybody else, and really however it's going to show up in your body. It really
it,
is.
right, and I we're still there's still a cord attached. He lives 6 houses away from me to
Yeah.
accommodate the children, you know that. But like we will make the same things for dinner on the same nights.
Mm,
We'll go to the same places on the same day,
mm.
and
Yeah,
it's
it's still
just
occurred. Yeah.
there's still the cord there, and he's so angry and he just feels like his energy just feels very unhappy and angry. But, that's it's
And
I
here's the
feel
Wonder Woman
for
undies.
him around that,
Yeah.
and I wish him great things and happiness and joy and prosperity. And I wish him all good things, and
Yeah.
it's a path that he's on. That's the path
Yeah.
that he's on, and
And and the empowerment
it's
in
what it is.
that is again, which is what I constantly do as well, my husband, and the Wonder Woman undies and taking our power back is to constantly disconnect, to unhook from their energy, to not be aware of what they're feeling, and this, that, and the other thing. Like I work diligently with my connection to unhook, like to not be involved. And it's sometimes a little tough because you have a child coming to you or children coming to you complaining about them or the choices they're making and that sort of thing. And I really, same thing, I try to go into compassion. Once again, I can see how unhappy he is because I can see about the life part of this partner he's chosen. And I see it through my son's eyes. And my son comes and, just unloading and sharing, which is beautiful. I appreciate it. I don't say anything, I just receive and I'm open. And for me, it just is a reminder to, again, not to be like, okay, I'm not connected to that. I'm not connected to that. Brody chose him as his dad. I am not, like you got to unhook from that.
Yeah,
So, and you'll always have some form of connection because you created children together and because you
right.
had a strong karmic cycle that you worked through. But the more we disconnect from that cycle, the less likely we are to repeat it. Like I'm like,
Right.
I am not doing this again, you
Right,
know?
right. My current partner is very different, and
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, and there's the energy is very different. So that's a good
Right.
thing. I
Right.
stepped it up
Right.
definitely when I had the opportunity to. So
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
far as projection and accountability,
Mhm.
is in relationships. So projection, describe to me and the audience what you define as projection in
Oh
relationships.
my gosh. Like, um, A perfect example is if I'm not feeling confident about myself, if I'm struggling with, loving myself or liking myself, I will find I'll go out on dates with guys who you can uber see that with. If I'm feeling, you know, self-deprecating or I'm critical or whatever, I'll find relationships in my life or friendships in my life where people start kind of picking at me and stuff like that. I stop and go, okay, first, I don't like that feeling. I don't want to be around that energy. But then I also go, well, what about me is being open to that? Because the higher the vibration we are and the frequency we are, and I do this all the time, the more I stop going into that turtle shell and I hold my shoulders back, I'm just like, no, no, nope, I'm not listening to this. Nope, I'm not doing that. Nope, I'm da 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 da. And then they can get all offended or, what, you don't want to, da da da. Like I have a lovely friend of mine who I love dearly, and it's constantly, let's take a selfie, let's take a selfie, and I don't want to. I have enough photos of myself. I don't care what I look like in the photos and that sort of thing, but I just don't want to keep on doing that. That's just not something that is important to me. I want to be in the moments. I don't want to be on a phone. I don't want to be looking at photos. I want to be eyes up, looking up, and that sort of thing. And I think sometimes this offends her. And I'm just like, I don't, we have a million photos of us. Let's just be here. My phone is away. My phone is off, whatever it is. And it's amazing how I can see somebody have a reaction. And then what I do is I don't take accountability for that. I'm just like, I'm speaking my truth. I really want to do it kindly. That's first and foremost, and that sort of thing. But I'm going to stick to my truth. And you have the choice to either be offended or not be offended. Like give it, this is yours. I'm going to take mine back. You take yours back.
Yeah.
And all of that is just I'm constantly like, oh, that person just really offended me, or oh, I just felt so bad, or I felt so ashamed right there. And I'm like, wow, I need to dig deeper. I'm feeling pretty kind of ashamed of something lately, and there's some shame stuff coming up, So I do I sit in meditation and what is that? Let it come up. Where do I feel it in my body? Let it come up. And sometimes, like Monday night, what was it, a couple of nights ago, whatever it was, I was just sobbing my eyes out. I don't know what it was. I wasn't attaching it to a story. I was just crying my eyes out and releasing, another layer of shame. And then the next morning I woke up and I was like, woohoo, felt so much better stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Releasing tears and energy
yeah,
is powerful. It's so healing. That with you
yeah.
talking about this, that it makes me kind of want to veer into the rejection piece.
Mm,
So I was working with a coach and we did like a mental and emotional release technique. And the one word that came up for me is rejection.
mm,
Like we dove deep into a lot of different layers.
mm,
And what came up was like my word was rejection. And it
mm,
stems back to like in utero, as far as going back on timelines, and not necessarily rejection of giving birth, but the rejection of the relationship that my mother and my father had
mm,
because it was not healthy. And they didn't have a lot of money at the time when I was born. But besides that, the marriage was not good. It was not content. So the rejection piece that came up was not rejecting me per se, but reject my mother feeling rejected by my father and
mm.
having another baby and what
Yeah.
that looks like in the future as far as survival goes.
Mhm,
Right. So when we project, right, a feeling
mhm,
onto somebody else, we need to really look at the root of it. Like,
mhm.
look back and get help with it, through
Right,
your timeline
right,
if you need to do that and really
right.
find
Clear
out
that lineage. Yeah,
where it started.
yeah.
Because it's not just from that specific singular moment that you're having a feeling of rejection
Mhm.
or
Well, and it
or any other
shows the
feeling.
partner, and it shows the partner you chose in life. You picked a spouse who you felt rejected by
Yeah.
over and over and
And
over again.
I felt rejected by my father when I was a kid. You
Mm,
know, when I
yeah,
married a version of my father and I felt rejected
yeah.
by him through our whole marriage, you
It's
know?
funny.
And
It really is beautiful in a
it's
way.
like you don't see it when you're in it all the time
I know it's so true.
because you're
I
so
was
in
always like,
it, right?
I was so proud of myself and so cocky and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, look at me. I'm the youngest of four. I'm the one who didn't marry one of my parents. I'm so like, I've changed our lineage and our DNA. And look at, sure enough, what? Yeah, I did marry my dad. It's so many aspects of that that
Yeah.
I was just like, ugh. So, the one thing I wanted to also really focus on, and for me, the biggest thing about pulling up my Wonder Woman undies is the feeling of, I have to say, and I wanted to share, this is the other thing I wanted to share. I got up, I drove down to Denver a couple weekends ago, and I got randomly picked to get up on a stage and share a story I've written. And the story's all true. And the biggest thing for me was, and still is sometimes, is how didn't I know? Why didn't I see those patterns? Why didn't I see I married my dad? Why didn't I see the lies? I was like, I felt like I was an ostrich with my head in the sand and that sort of thing. And this is the part of the story. How did I not know? How did
Right.
I not know? I'm intuitive. I'm
You know
empathic. I do
lots
this
of
for a living.
things. You're so
Yeah,
tuned
exactly. I
in.
navigate my life by my gut instincts. Exactly. Almost 15 years of how the F did I not know? And that was where most of my healing was. And it wasn't a betrayal of him, it was a betrayal of self and my connection, and it altered everything. And that's why I went into turtle mode. That's why I was fearful. That's why I had anxiety, because if I didn't see that, then what else am I missing? I am walking through this life completely oblivious and didn't believe in my connection to divine. It affected the absolute foundation of my life, and not only altered it, but I say completely blew it up, like, blew up. And I remember that was the biggest betrayal in my life, was how did I not know? And like I said, this connection to divine that we do have, but for some reason, and like I said, the part of the story is I find out why I didn't and what I was meant to bring into the world. And one of the reasons was to bring my son into the world. I didn't plan on having children. None. Like, I was happy. I loved being an aunt. I'd been babysitting since I was 10, loved kids, worked equine therapy with special needs kids, loved kids. But I just didn't need to have them in my own life. I didn't need to give birth to them. So I just didn't have any plans. And my son was a big surprise. And there's nobody else in the world who I would have, or at least that I know of right now, that I would have said, I want to bring this child, we created this child. I want to bring him into this world. I would have, maybe made other decisions. And I know that's part of the reason why I didn't see what I didn't see. And like I said, I was also in a cycle of learning. I was also in a cycle of, I was like I call it, I was in high school. I was really in the depths of learning and all that awkwardness and living in Orange County, where all you can be is awkward living in Orange County, California, because there's just, and I don't say this as a blanket statement, but in my experience with Orange County there's a lot of focus on just the way you look. What you have is your value system, what you look like is your value system, and that sort of thing, and that's your worth. So there was a reason why I was there. There's a reason why I, moved to LA. All of that. So, like I said, the story I wanted to share, if you're open to it, I would love to share it and just share with the story I got up on the stage and gave on that Friday night on
Yep.
the platforms called The Moth. And the
Okay.
Moth is a really cool, yeah, it's just such a fun way to watch people get up on stage and listen to stories.
Is
Okay.
that an acronym for something? Moth?
No, it's called The Moth, and the images
Okay.
of a moth. It's a
Okay.
nonprofit and they travel. they travel nationally and they get up on stage, or they create an area where they're going to say this is another moth event and this is the theme. And the night I went, it was an open theme. And it was like 175, easily 175 people there. I was like, holy cow, I've done open mic nights, but I've never done this large of an audience. It was double tiered and all this stuff. And I go up there and you sign, and if you win, you get put on the Moth's media platform. They put it out there for the world to hear and see. So you're signing it away that if you win, you get, featured on the Moth. And I sat there in my seat going, I don't want to get up there. No way. This is too big of a crowd. And then the other part of me was like, if I'm meant to be up there, I'm just going to get up there and I can do this. And then I was like, no, 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 can't do it. Like I was flip, flop, flip, flop. And second man gets up there. He does really well. And then he puts his hand in the bag to pull out a random name. And I knew instantly that I knew it was going to be me. I just got that internal nudge. Okay, this is my turn. Calls my name and I get up there and I have all these little zing, 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 zing. And when I get a little zingy, I talk fast. If you haven't noticed already, somehow I'm a fast talker. Or when I have a lot of information I want to share, but I just took a deep breath and was just present. And it's honestly one of my favorite stories to share because it is, um, I don't know, I feel like it's really, really part of my truth. And it's really taking my mask off. And I feel like it's a really wonderful, comfortable place for me to be vulnerable. And I love vulnerability. So, yes.
Great, let's hear it.
Okay.
I'm excited.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I start out that it is April 1st, 2006, and I'm just about to get married. My fiance and I at the time chose April Fool's Day because we felt like it replicated who we were at the time, which was, loving to have fun, enjoying a joke, and not taking life too seriously. So we are in Mexico and we're at an all-inclusive resort. And it's the day we're getting married, and I'm currently standing in a hallway in the resort with a door in front of me. And that door, once opened, walks directly out onto the beach where my fiance and 10 of our guests are all standing out on the beach. And that's where we're going to have the ceremony. It's this beautiful wrapped gazebo with flowers, and there's this beautiful train, which I didn't see until I opened the door. Beautiful train all the way to the gazebo, held down by enormously beautiful shells. And I'm standing there and I take the time that I have this time and I'm waiting for the knock on the door. And the knock on the door is going to signal that it's time for me to open the door and step out and go get married. And so while I'm waiting, I take the time to check in. And I go into this place of, do I have any reservations? I'm just about to get married. Do I have any doubts? Have I noticed any red flags, like anything like that? And I'm tuning in with my body, and I take that time to really allow myself that process. I consider myself very fortunate to have found a man that I genuinely loved or love at the time, and felt that I was just so blessed to have found a partner in life that I really was excited about marrying. Like I really considered myself I really took the time to appreciate how blessed I felt. And while I'm standing there, I get the song by Keith Urban. Every once in a while, I get songs that pop into my head, and it's either the guides giving me something for information for what I'm asking about, or just happens to be a random song that pops into my head. And this was the Keith Urban song, "You'll Think of Me." And it's, take your records, take your freedom, take your memories, I don't need them, take your space and all your reasons, you'll think of me. And I consider these lyrics, and I started thinking about all the loves and lovers of the past, and not in the heaviness of those lyrics, but instead as an homage to what they were in my life, and a feeling of like closure, like literally going into a space of closing a door to the past and ready to open the door to my future. And so, and just in that moment, taking some gratitude and gratefulness for everything I learned from them and all the steps along the way and all the, and, like I said, once again, going back to feeling how blessed I am. And so the knock on the door comes. I open that door, and at 34, I'm married. Fast forward 15 years later, and I'm in New Mexico. I'm in a yurt with 16 other people, and I'm about to experience ayahuasca for the first time. And I don't go into the ceremony lightly. Ayahuasca was really something that was really gave me some anxiety because I knew it was going to really dig up some deep-rooted stuff. And I had a true reverence for the ceremony, had true reverence for the medicina. And even though the shaman assured me that I will not, unless I set the intention, that I will not poop myself or throw up, I'm not completely convinced. So I take a bucket with me back to my spot in the yurt, and I sit down in ceremony, and I go through the ceremony. It's, hours into the evening, hours into the night, in the wee hours of the night. And that bucket comes in handy because, as I say, I cried and boogered my way through ceremony. My eyeballs are puffed shut. Nose is running, and my bucket comes in handy because it's just filled with tissue paper as I'm quietly blowing my nose throughout the ceremony. And as I'm coming off the medicina, ask one last question, and that is, how did I not know? How did I not know? I'm somebody who trusts my instincts and my intuition. I'm pretty sound on that in life. How did I not know that he had been cheating on me pretty much from day one? How did I not know? And the medicina says, go outside. So I take my bucket and I shuffle out in my sleeping bag, and I sit down outside, and the medicina says, look up. And I look up, and it's this beautiful midnight blue sky, and it's filled with thousands and thousands of stars. And the medicina says, you had to be here to find out. And instantly I know that this is truth, that this is my truth, that I had been living in California for 20 years, 15 of it, almost 15 of it, married. And if I had done my healing, or had to have done my healing in California, I would not be the same person. I knew I had to be in Colorado. I had just moved to Colorado. I had only been in Colorado a couple of months when I found out everything. And I knew I was meant to find out the moment I got here to Colorado, because I needed to be in the mountains. I needed to be in the trees. I needed to be with the beautiful skylines we have here. I knew I needed to be near the water and the bugs and the birds. That's what was going to help me not loop in my pattern of anger and resentment. And, I was in this frequency of, the of nature. And from there, I fast forward, 5 years to where I am now, and most days I'm the happiest I've ever been. And my husband and I, as you know, I don't call him my ex, but I call him my husband and I, because it feels softer for me. And he and I are doing really good in the sense that we communicate, we're co-parenting an amazing kid who's just turned 17, and he's one of my favorite people. We're doing a pretty damn good job co-parenting. And like I said, I love to say that I needed to be here. I recognize now why I needed to move and to be in my support system with all these amazing healers and like I said, the energy of the mountains and nature. And so now when I hear that Keith Urban song, and it's, take your records, take your freedom, take, my favorite saying is, take some of your memories because I don't need them. So, and yeah, I wanted to get first place in the wanted to get first place, and I got second place. So I was like, I'm still just going to be proud that I went and I did it and stuff like that. But I was like, I really, was hoping for first place. But
It's a
yeah,
brave move, honey. When you did that,
yeah,
you shared
thanks.
your story and your vulnerability. You've
Yeah,
come a long way since we've met.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you
You're welcome.
for sharing your story and your
Yeah,
journey through the healing of your breakup. And it's a vulnerable, touchy spot, and I appreciate you talking about it.
yeah,
It's
thank
really
you.
powerful. It's really powerful.
Yeah.
And part of the
And I
journey,
will say that, what, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
part of the journey and all of that is the healing of blame, which was
Mm,
a big piece for you.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because you did not see it coming.
Mm-mm.
And that
And
that
that's what I mean by
hits you harder.
self-blame. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Whoosh, yeah.
Yeah. So
And
do you
and
think you said this, you were sitting in the stars and you were in New Mexico and you had to be here
mhm,
to find out.
mhm.
So I have a question around that. Does that message to you that when you were living in California, like it was just too loud, too
Mhm.
noisy, too much going on, where you were distracted by what was happening and you didn't see it because of the energy of being there?
It was exactly that. And then it was also the fact that I was with someone who go, go, go. All we did was go, go, go. Were either buying new stuff, we were either doing things, we were either going somewhere every weekend, we were either traveling or fixing something or repairing. Like it was just, it was interesting because I look back and I remember Mondays being so depleted and depressed on Monday mornings because I just had felt like I can't sit still. I can't stop doing and being and going and fixing. And at one point we had 5 cars and there were two of us driving 5 cars. That's a lot. Big house, more stuff, quads, so many toys and all this kind of stuff. Let's go here. Let's try, that kind of thing. And it's interesting, even my son to this day says, he still can't sit still. He's like, my son goes, I'm just exhausted sometimes by the end of the weekend. All I want to do is relax after working all week and stress of school and sports and all that kind of stuff. So it's still that feeling of like, I value the fact that my son recognizes that. So that's first and foremost, recognize that. So recognize in your own life now, moving forward when you start doing that yourself and stuff. And so that was one of the messages. The other message I got from a Medicina, which I thought was really profound, which I use and I hold on to. The Medicina said, he, my husband, is the flashlight. You and your son are the batteries. And I still use that as profound moving forward in my daily. If I'm a battery and I really, like I call it sparkly, and I really love being around personalities that also have their sparkle. And so they're their own batteries, right? Like I fill myself up. I have my own value. I'm working on, really doing this work in order for myself, not looking to grab and to buy and to do and to have. I mean, obviously, there's dreams and aspirations I have, so there is an aspect of that. But if I'm refueling or regenerating my own battery, certain people are the flashlight and they require batteries. So now, do I want to be somebody's battery or do I want to find another battery? You know? So I thought that was so profound. And I didn't come up with
Interesting.
that. Like, I have no claim to that.
I love it
Yeah.
though. It
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense,
I know, I know. My metaphor for life. Is this person a battery or is this person a flashlight?
right? What do you
Yeah.
think you need?
Well, I mean, I don't even I think the key for me is I don't want to find somebody or I'm not looking for somebody who I need because I that's where I want to come into a relationship differently. It's like I value their presence in my life and I love meeting them and sitting at the same table with them, and the thought of both of us pulling our chairs up to that, metaphoric or proverbial table, and we both meet equally in the middle and we're both working on the relationship versus I need you to fill something that's an emptiness within me. Like, no, 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 here's the accountability again. Here's the mirror image. What am I, obviously the beauty of it's going to be learning how to be vulnerable again, learning how to trust again, which I already have that. Like, I don't believe I have that pattern anymore of picking cheaters. Like, I really have faith in that. So that first and foremost, but it doesn't mean there's not going to be that beautiful things of that stuff coming up. And then learning how to be in a relationship differently and having a really open, lovely, scary, vulnerable relationship like that, I'm excited about. Because with my husband, we didn't talk about things like if something triggered him and affected his shame threshold and he was shamed up to his eye, past his eyebrows, he would just walk away. If I wasn't happy, God forbid, if I wasn't happy, he just walked away. And you're just left going, oh, what does that, I'm sitting at the table, I pulled my chair up and I'm looking at an empty chair kind of thing. So finding somebody who just, is another battery. I'm looking at a battery. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bypassing that last story and moving on to something better, right?
Right.
Equally
Right.
charging each other.
Right.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Tamara, for being on with me today. And
Thank
it's always
you.
so much fun to talk with you.
Me
And
too.
we always have great talks. Love it. I
I
love it.
agree. I love
So
you, my dear.
I love you too. And stay
Okay.
tuned, folks, for the next one. Take care and have a blessed. That's a wrap for today, folks. Thanks for spending the time with me. And don't forget to check the notifications below on my social media links, my YouTube channel with self-care and meditations, as well as my omshantihealing.com website where you can get info on spiritual coaching and my online courses. And as always, if you do enjoy my podcast, don't forget to subscribe or sponsor below. We'll talk to you soon. Have a beautiful rest of your week. Bye-bye.